Well, we're pleased to be joined on a special edition of Cincinnati Soccer Talk by the president of the United Soccer League, USL President Jake Edwards joins us on the telephone. Jake, welcome to Cincinnati Soccer Talk.
Yeah, good. Hi, Nick. Hi, Brian. Thanks for having me on.
A busy week for you, shall we say? I mean, yeah, two new teams out of the blue there. Well, maybe not so much out of the blue, but it was a busy week for you guys down at the front office of USL. How excited are you about Tampa Bay and Ottawa joining the league next year?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, no, great week. And we're very excited to have these two new clubs joining the league. Two great markets, great operators, strong ownership that have invested heavily in the clubs on and off the field, and two great venues. So we're thrilled. Certainly here in Tampa, as our HQ is based here, to have a club in the Bay Area is going to be really great, and a tremendous club. Yeah, and the we're extremely impressed with the folks in Ottawa at OSEG and the facilities and the world-class operation they have up there. So thrilled to have these two teams join the league and add a tremendous amount of value and really help to keep pushing the competition forward. Two good teams on the field. Good, great fan bases, good supporter groups. So yeah, we're very excited to have them. It's been a great week.
I want to go back to your early days. How did you get started in USL? And talk a little bit about your playing career as well. I mean, I know you have experience playing over in England as well here stateside. Talk a little bit about that. Let folks know here in Cincinnati how you got involved with soccer in the States.
I've been in the game most of my life now, so I'm very privileged to still be involved in the game. It's been a massive part of the direction my life has gone, and I had a professional career that went a little over 10 years, and prior to that I was playing at university here in the States at James Madison University at D1 school in Virginia. And when I finished there in '98, that's when I went to the UK to start playing. Played in a number of clubs in the UK in the football league structure during that time. Never played in the Premier League, so never became a millionaire. So hence I'm still working for a living. But I had a great time doing it over a number of years. So that's there was a stint in my career about 2002 when I came over to the US. And played for Charleston Battery, who's in the USL. Back then it was the A-League. And so I was familiar with many of those teams that are still around today, certainly. And I have affinity to the league, kept in touch, kept my eye on it. And then when I finished playing in the UK, I transitioned onto the business side. I went back to university to got my business degree, and then went to work for a company called Octagon. Octagon's a major global sports marketing consultancy, sponsorship consultancy, and based out of Connecticut and Stanford. But I was working in the London office for a few years on a number of projects, and ended up transitioning back to the US, which was always my long-term goal after spending so many years back there playing. My wife's American. We have had our first child over there, and our long-term plan was always to come back to the States. So we did that towards the end of 2012, and then I was introduced to Alec, who had just taken over the league, over the USL, and and discussion ensued about where the league was going and what the opportunity looked like, and it was something that was I saw a huge potential in, and I was very impressed with Alec's vision for where he felt the league could go, and it was not a tough decision to jump at the opportunity to come on board. So I've been here for a little over 3 years now. First as vice president, and about almost 2 years now as president.
Now, Jake, in your 2 years as president, you've made a lot of positive changes with the league. And recently, you announced that the creation of USL Productions, as well as a new partnership with Opta to bring a new stats package online for the 2017 season. Can you explain how those came about and how those will impact the fans of the league?
Yeah, it's a massive game changer for us. It's a major investment over the next few years, and it's going to set us up really for the next sort of 3 to 5 years and beyond. And it's about just taking control of the production in all areas of the production of the games. So we can standardize the quality, improve the quality, and then create a production level that we can showcase this to national TV partners, digital distribution partners, and enable our teams to be able to do lucrative or certainly important local TV and regional sports network deals for not only their home games but their away games too. And it's a new model we're working with a group in South Florida, Vista WorldLink, to have a remote production model whereby we have a centralized facility where we will have 30 full-time staff. We're going to have special production pods built down there. We're going to manage the production of over 500 games, live games next year. We'll have commentary crews, both in English and Spanish language, based down there in Fort Lauderdale, just north of Miami. And we'll have all the graphic overlays, the replays, all the various production elements that go into it, all done in a single location. So we're just going to have cameras and camera operators in the stadiums, and all of our stadiums are going to be connected by connected onto a sort of single network, where all of those teams will be able to receive instantly not only live game feeds, but all this ancillary content that we're going to be producing as well. We're going to have a studio down there. We're going to be producing a weekly half-hour around the league show with news stories and highlights. All the teams will get access to that. Teams will get access in real time to all of the goals and clips and footage and various things that are happening in the games across the league to be able to distribute right away on social media. We're going to integrate, as you said, the Opta company's various stats and analysis packages into the broadcasts. So that's, I mean, they're certainly the leader in that space, and work with many of the top leagues around the world. And so we're thrilled to be working with them to be able to sort of enrich the broadcasts, certainly give a huge amount of new depth to the commentary teams working those games and our clubs, the ability to have some really in-depth stats to provide for their fans, both on the broadcast, on social media, and in other ways as well. Certainly will help the coaches and the technical staff. So you're going to see a much richer broadcast, a much better quality broadcast, and a lot of new areas of the broadcast that we'll be able to showcase through Opta and some of the other things we're doing. So it's a massive initiative. It's a combined initiative between the league and all of the clubs, but we're very excited to that. It's going to be a very important part of everything we do now moving forward. So it's we're very excited.
Well, USL is referred to one of the hottest leagues right now in the world, definitely in North America growth wise. I know in 2015 USL announced Destination 2020 as kind of a guide for the growth of the league. I know your predecessor Tim Holt had spoke about the possibility of adding 40 teams. I've seen you being stated anywhere from 36 to I think a year or two ago I even saw potentially 48 teams. One of our Twitter followers, Sean Pace, asks, does USL expect to have a cap on the number of league members, and potentially how would that larger setup, 36, 40 teams look like in your view?
Yeah, it's a good question. A question I get a lot. We don't, and I think there's a sensible number in terms of the operational capabilities of the league, in terms of the competition level on the field. There is probably a sensible number to be at. It's North America is a big place. There's a tremendous amount of markets that I think are really exciting, dynamic markets that we believe will be a great place to have a USL team. We've just obviously announced two great clubs this week. We've got Reno joining the next season as well, and then in 2018 so far we've announced Nashville to join. So I think we are, we're getting to a point now in the evolution where we are putting a lot of demands on new groups coming into the league, especially if it's an expansion team that's starting from zero, that they have to come in with a stadium plan to build a soccer-specific stadium. Now, that is something that we're seeing a tremendous appetite for at the local level, and so, but that pushes it back. Now, we're in discussions with groups now for 19 and 20 because they've got to build those stadiums. I do see expansion continuing for the foreseeable future, but it won't continue forever. So there are a number of markets now that we're in advanced conversations with that I think will be, brilliant markets and great opportunities that we need to explore. What I don't think it makes sense is to pick an arbitrary number and say, 40, and then you get there, and then, there's a fantastic market that shows up and a really great ownership group there, and there's a willingness to build a great stadium, and that's going to add a lot of value to the league, and it's going to be a strategic sort of travel, market for some of the other rivalry markets in that area. You're not going to exclude that team, and and you forecast 5 or 10 years down the road, there might be some movement in the league. There may be one or two teams that make the move up to MLS. There may be some fluctuation in the numbers. So we're not going to put a hard number on it. What I would say would look, what maybe makes sense is to, envision a sort of mid-30s league, and that's kind of, there may be a, give or take a few there, but I think probably a sort of a mid-30s actually makes sense. And we are looking at a sort of a conference structure that moves us in that direction. So there's not a hard and fast number. It certainly, there is a number that probably makes sense, but we leave the door open for some exciting new market opportunities that maybe we didn't see coming.
And we had almost 40 Twitter questions coming for you, and I think one, this is coming from followers from Florida to Louisville, Nashville. I think one of the most asked questions to us for you was the potential of a central conference, and more so, from another one of our Twitter followers, James Bonsall. He asked, does USL factor in rivalries such as first FC Cincinnati, be Pittsburgh, St. Louis, Louisville, potentially Nashville? Do you and your staff take into account those different rivalries in potentially forming a separate conference or additional matchups?
Yeah, of course we do. It's those are the games we want to see more of, and so it's really important that we, as we expand nationally, we do so on a regional basis so that we can build those regional rivalries and create those derby matches. This year we saw more fans traveling to away games than we've ever seen before, and hundreds of fans are traveling now to see their teams on the road because they can do so because they're only an hour or maybe 2 or 3 hours away. There'll be some more markets coming online, such as Nashville and Tampa here now that are really sort of destination cities as well. So I think that'll appeal to people traveling and following their teams on the road and making a weekend of it. So it's really important. Those games are great. They're a great environment to play as a player. They're great for the fans to get into those stadiums and really, get behind their team and go against another set of supporters. And that's something we definitely want to see more of. We're actually going to be integrating some of that into our, broadcast strategy for next year as well to really sort of highlight and showcase those games on a local and national level. So we are looking to build more of those rivalries. It's a little easier in the East, obviously, and with the proximity of cities to each other, with something that we are working towards in the sort of central part of the country as well. A little more challenging somewhat on the West just because of the spread of the cities. But we've been working now with our board of governors, our team, our owners to move towards a 3-conference model. That is something we do see as a future for us. I think that's something that makes a lot of sense. We're an East-West conference this season. We will be again next season. But we're working towards 2018 being able to break out a central conference. So I think 2018 is likely that we'll be able to break that into an East, West, and Central, and then add the new markets beyond that within that construct. Now, when you're looking at perhaps upwards of 12 or 14 teams in each one of those conferences, when you get to 3, you're going to probably be like we are next season, home and away against every team, and then you have some regional makeup games. So next season, for example, will be at 32 games. We're going to have, each team in each conference will play home and away, and then the remaining games will be scheduled on a regional basis, and we work with our teams to decide who those matchups are going to be against. So it may be that in a central conference, Cincinnati's in one conference, maybe St. Louis is in the other, but just because of the proximity, those teams may certainly want to have one of their matchup games against each other, and we'll work to make that happen. So, yes, so we'll be working towards a three-conference model, and if one of those rivalry teams falls within the other conference, they'll still end up playing each other in one of those regional matchup games.
Now let's talk to you about a subject that I'm sure you get asked quite a bit, a lot, Jake, and that is Division II and the whole thing that happens with the United States Soccer Federation and having USL apply for Division II status in within that pyramid. Ottawa Fury president John Pugh said this week that that Ottawa was in discussions with the league for at least two months prior to this announcement. Can you fill us in on the on how the prospect of or that timeline applying for Division II status and when we could possibly expect an answer on that?
Yeah, that is something that is extremely important to the league and extremely important to all of our owners. We feel strongly that as a league we've been operating at that level. There are a number of reasons why we want to pursue Division II sanctioning, and I think we've got a really solid application in with the federation. Federation is now concluding some final areas of due diligence. It's been a long and in-depth process, and it absolutely should be. It's not something we take lightly. We want to make sure that we meet or exceed all of the criteria required. They are sort of in the final week. I think next week will be the final week of their due diligence. Now that we've added 2 new teams, there's some additional due diligence that needs to be performed, but I think by the end of next week that should all be wrapped up. They then present their reports to the task force. The task force has to do the final review, and then it will present its report to the Federation board. Now we're hoping that that's going to be in a December board meeting. We don't know yet, but we haven't seen any agenda. But we're hopeful that will be an action item for vote at the December board meeting. This again is in for 2017, in time for the 2017 season. That's the season we're applying for sanctioning for. So we're still feeling very optimistic. Like I said, we're hoping to maybe get some resolution on that as early as December.
Now, I know Alec Popdock, the CEO for USL, sits on the USSF board. Does he have to recuse himself in those discussions?
He does. Yeah, he won't be voting on that. He'll be stepping outside if there is a vote, or at the time there's a vote, he won't be able to vote on that.
Okay. Now, speaking additionally a little bit more about USL, more specifically the PDL. USL PDL, which is essentially a predominantly college age player league. Kind of 2 points here is, with the potential NCAA sanctioning the potentially league changes to almost a full year league. Is USL working on potentially adapting the USL PDL to a different, maybe semi-pro format?
No, we're not. We don't have any plans in the works for that. The PDL is a extremely important and strong property. It's the elite pre-professional college age amateur league in this country. It's been around for many years. It's grown significantly. It's definitely a property that we don't have any plans to change into some sort of semi-pro league. We're certainly keeping an eye on what's going on at the NCAA level. I would say that I think that's predominantly a coaching driven initiative from the coaches' side. I know the NCAA is an organization that there's a lot of layers there. The decision-making process in terms of making some sort of significant structural change like that will take a while. So I don't envision anything happening anytime soon, but there's certainly a need to increase the amount of time collegiate players are playing and the amount of games that they get, and balancing the hectic fall schedule with a very light spring schedule. So having gone through that system, I do agree that some changes would certainly benefit the development of the players at that level. But we have no plans to make any changes to the PDL to reflect whatever's going on there.
I know Nashville SC is going to be fielding a PDL team this upcoming 2017 season to kind of, what they say, I believe, bridge the gap for the year to maybe develop some players. Is that potentially something that the USL recommends to new teams coming into the league, is to maybe have that year to get maybe their feet under themselves and take that developmental time?
No, not necessarily. I mean, we have a number of USL and MLS teams that have a PDL team and have it for varying reasons. It may be in their marketplace. It may be in a different marketplace around the country where they have a relationship with an independently owned PDL team. But it's something that has certainly has has value to the pro clubs to have that level and to have those collegiate players coming back to their marketplace in the summertime to play under that banner, and then hopefully, if they're good enough, sign them into the first team, into the USL club when their eligibility is expired. So. It's not something we necessarily would, suggest the team do prior to launch of the first team. No, but that's sort of a case-by-case basis. That's something that the folks in Nashville felt they wanted to do, and they wanted to. They felt they had enough lead time where they wanted to, get the brand going in the marketplace, have some soccer in the marketplace the year before, and their long-term planning. Factored in having a PDL team at some point anyway, so they felt the strategic decision that was right for them was to bring it on first and at least have some brand recognition in the marketplace a year early. So, but that would be on a case-by-case basis.
Now, I'm sure you saw tons of questions come in when we announced that we'd be having you on the show. Obviously, your Twitter was blowing up with all kinds of questions, but we actually got a question from Reddit. And Elect the Dead asked, how did the 5 substitution rule come to USL, and would the league consider changing to a 3 substitute rule to fall in line with MLS and most FIFA sanctioned leagues? And as a follow-up, is that a barrier as far as Division II status? Would USL have to change to a 3 substitute league in order to fit the Division II outline?
No, it's not a requirement. It's not something that's in the all leagues have to follow the bylaws of FIFA, and there's some peculiarities between leagues in different countries where certain things are slightly different like that. So the 5 substitute rule for the USL it's kind of a legacy rule. It goes back for many years when the league was a shorter season, and teams therefore were playing multiple games on a road trip and perhaps even back-to-back games. And so for all the right reasons, we've moved away from that as the league's lengthened and the structures changed. But back in those days, when you're looking back into the 90s and mid-90s, early 2000s, as the leagues evolved, that was something where teams would play a Friday night and a Saturday. Or they might go on the road and play 2 or 3 trips on a single road trip, and therefore you needed to be able to rest people or manage your squad to get through those that kind of a schedule or the proximity to those 2 games. It's a funny rule that's actually just not really changed, but we are changing that for next season now. So that's something we've mandated, and we've gone through that with our technical committees and competition committees, and that's something we were looking at doing for the last few seasons. But next season for 2017, it'll be a 3 substitution rule.
I'd hate to get you out of here without asking you a question about FC Cincinnati, Jake. And when you announced in the Queen City, and really not that long ago, that there would be a new USL team coming to town, did you see or expect the response that came out and supported this city, or at least this team? Because growing up in Cincinnati and seeing soccer teams come and go, even a lot of us, we weren't even sure. But to see the support, I mean, how surprised were you, or were you surprised?
Yes and no. I was. Look, it's great to see 30,000 people at a USL playoff game. That's something that it's just overwhelming. It's fantastic. I remember when I was there for the announcement. Well, go back before that. We were in the marketplace for, a good 6 or 8 months before the announcement, looking at the market. We were looking at stadium options. We were working to put a group together, and we were introduced to Jeff and Jeff Birding, and this was before Carl, and there's a couple of owners that were interested, and there was a lot of work to do at that time, but we felt this could be a really strong market if we had the right ownership group in place, if we could put all the pieces in place and get the right venue. And to Jeff's credit, he worked tirelessly on that behind the scenes when he was doing a full-time job at the Bengals as well. And so he deserves a lot of credit for, helping to put this together. I knew it was going to be special if we could get the ingredients together. And when we did, and we had that announcement, I remember talking to one of the reporters after the announcement, and I think he was writing for one of the big papers there. And he said, "Look, Jay, we've seen this all before, right? We've seen soccer come and go. We've had a team here many years ago. It never worked. I'm not sure this is the right market for it. I'm not sure we're going to embrace this USL here. I don't think this is going to work. Yes, you've got a well-to-do owner, but I don't think, he was very negative. And I said to him, look, I believe strongly that you're going to see at least 10,000 people here a game. You've got all the ingredients. You've got a great field. You've got a top, world-famous coach here. You've got an amazing ownership group. You're going to start assembling a really good senior management team. This is going to be fantastic. The fans will really get behind this. And he said, I don't think so. I said, well, we'll see. And that chap was really good after the first game or couple of games. He ate a bit of humble pie and he did some really good pieces on the team. And he said, yeah, I think you're right. It's here. It's not a question of is it going to succeed in a marketplace anymore, because the fans are there. In every market we look at, soccer fans are already there. They're very engaged. They're very passionate. They want a team to support. So, and the ingredients were there. And Carl Lindner has put a tremendous amount of energy and time and resources behind this. Mike Bone and the AD at the Cincinnati to work with them on that stadium and making that stadium, line up well for the soccer. And Jeff has worked tirelessly in the community and put a great management team together. And John's done his bit there and put a really good, exciting team out on the field, and is going to build upon that for next year. So I fully expected to have a really good turnout, but yes, to see 25,000 and 30,000, that's way beyond, I think, anyone's expectations. So it's been brilliant to see. Now the club are, I think, going to have an even more successful year in their second season. I think more people are going to want to get behind it and get engaged and support the club. I think the fan base will grow. I think the team's going to build upon the success they had this year and get better. And I think good things are coming for the club and the market, and it's just about sustaining it and building upon it each year and keeping the fan base growing.
Well, we had Jeff Birding on the show, and we had a chance to thank him for bringing soccer to the Queen City. So now, on behalf of FC Cincinnati fans and Brian as well, I know he echoes these sentiments. Thank you, Jake, for bringing soccer and bringing USL soccer to the Queen City. It was a tremendous year, and congratulations on a successful year for all of your clubs here in 2016.
Great, no worries. Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Brian. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your support of USL and certainly of Cincinnati.